Are you ready to get gardening? We have some timely tips on pruning, planting, and preparing for the season ahead. With first-hand advice from Northland garden experts, a tour of local landscape that one woman uses as a teaching tool for her grandchildren, and much more coming up in this special edition of Great Gardening from the Arrowhead Home and Builders Show in Duluth.
Every tree has a moment when it shines.
That's called moneywort or creeping Jenny.
You can go in and do a rejuvenating pruning.
Forage and feed for our native pollinator population.
A garden really gives you peace of mind.
Hello and welcome to Great Gardening. As winter disperses, springtime awakens. For gardeners, it's a much anticipated time. But for many, a lot of the groundwork is well underway. Still, with gardening, there's always more to do and more to learn. Well, this program helps share garden knowledge thanks in large part to our very skilled and devoted expert gardeners, Bob Olin, area horticulturist and educator, and Tom Casper, longtime local garden professional. We want to thank you both for being here.
This is our first time ever. This is our first applause ever.
It's your first applause?
Yes.
No, that can't be.
No, they're going to follow us
Well, it
everywhere.
is well deserved, and we thank you guys for being here. You know, I want to ask you, as lifelong gardeners, what do you like best about this time of year?
Well, my favorite part is exploring or going out into the garden and looking for what's coming up or what you think is going to be coming up soon, and seeing those tips of new growth. And we'll see those over the next few weeks or the next month or so, but it's just seeing that new life coming out of the garden that was so bare for several months now. So.
And I would agree. I just like this color transition, moving from white to green.
Absolutely.
Sorry, skiers and snowboarders. Our time is coming, right?
That's right, that's right. We know that our audience can relate to that. We have friends and avid gardeners here that have joined us in the audience at the annual home show. We want to thank you for being with us as well. You deserve a nice round of applause. We know that you have questions about plants, flowers, and some gardening techniques, and we will get to those in just a few minutes. Well, one of the things we're often asked about is when and how to prune our favorite flowering shrubs. And we begin with a tip from Tom on how that's done.
Well, this is a very popular Shrub Roses. This is William Booth, very, very hardy for our northern climates. Over the years, it's gotten to the point where it doesn't bloom as well. So what you can do this with a lot of shrubs, is you can go in and do a rejuvenating pruning. And it's basically just going down and cleaning this whole thing up. And you can leave 4 or 5 inches up if you want. You know, you kind of want to get similar height so the growth is similar in the spring. Early in the spring, you can see we still have snow. It's a great time to do it. Most shrub roses, if you do this about every 5 to 7 years, will be good. It's best to do it in the spring because most roses bloom on new wood. So it's going to send its flush of growth and still give us lots of flowers to enjoy this season.
Okay, so other shrubs that we might want to prune this time of year.
Oh boy, there are all kinds of them. I think the group that you really want to avoid is anything that blooms very early in the spring. Things like azaleas and so forth that can come early, but everything from forsythia will bloom early, so you don't want to prune that. But certainly a stilbea, cotoneasters,
Spirea,
Spirea, barberry. Would you prune now?
Certainly.
Avoid the lilacs and rhododendrons.
The hardwood you avoid because, well, you tell us why.
Well, you wouldn't want to prune your lilacs now because you're taking off all the blooms. I mean, everything that's coming or going to be coming in the spring now are going to be your blossoms for those lilacs. So wait till later in the season for those.
Well, we've had questions too. Our earlier show this spring, we had a question about pruning fruit trees, and now is the time, or close to the time, to prune those fruit trees. They did They did just that in this workshop in Superior. We see a cherry tree there that's ready for some pruning. They also pruned apple trees with instruction from Ken Shesso, who demonstrated how to look for what needs to be pruned, what tools to use, how to take out branches that might compete for sunlight from branches below. And these trees that you're seeing here are from the Solid Rock Supplemental Food Garden in Superior. They're at the garden there in Superior, and some good education programs in Douglas County as well as elsewhere. So we want to thank them for those pictures, and it's time now to get some questions from our live audience. So that's what we're here for. We have our own Karen Sunderman, who is standing by in the audience with a question for us. Karen?
Well, we're going to stay on the pruning question. Pruning is the question.
Okay.
And Bill from Duluth.
Yes, my question is regarding hydrangeas, and my question is about pruning. When and how much can I prune them? And I have various types, so if you could answer that, I'd appreciate it.
Can you repeat the question in case everybody didn't hear that? The question again was hydrangeas,
Yep.
how and when to prune them.
I'll do the Annabelles because those are the easy ones. Bob can do the difficult ones. Annabelles just cut to the ground. They're really basically a large perennial that in our region that looks like a shrub, but really most seasons it dies to the ground, so cut it pretty much now or any time in the next week or so, or next couple weeks, and those will be fine for this year. So.
And Bill, you confused the issue just a little bit there to challenge us because you said you had all different types. And the Annabelles, of course, these are the big snowball bushes, and Tom's absolutely right, we cut those down. But now we've got a mix. And let's give our good friends Bailey's credit under the Endless Summer collection. They're not all the Endless Summer, they got a number of different introductions. But you're going to have to examine them. Some need to be pruned now, some will be pruned later, some maybe both. So they're blooming on new wood, old wood, and some bloom on both new and old. So you're going to have to inspect. And actually, this is a very good activity right now. You're going to inspect those actual branches that have emerged, and if the tissue is alive and you've got a bud there, just prune back to that. If it has died back, take it right down to the ground. So each individual cultivar is going to have to be examined, and the pruning will be just a little different for each, probably.
All right, thanks much. Karen, you have another question?
We do have another question. Terry from Hawthorne.
Yes, my question is, how do you get rid of slugs non-chemically in your yard, not just around your gardens, but in your grass? I have a beagle who will dig and eat them, and there's landmines all over my yard, and it's like a 2-acre yard.
Yeah.
Did you say your beagle eats the slugs?
Yes.
Wow,
Oh,
that's interesting.
that's an interesting.
Maybe you can
kiss
hire it
then
out.
At least that beetle, yes.
And they're really, there's a lot of different remedies. Most of them are organic. One of the best products really is an organic control. It's iron phosphate, and you can sprinkle it in the soil. It's completely organic. The slugs will be attracted to that rather than your plants. And I would suggest sprinkling it along your garden edge in the lawn, because most of the slugs are coming out of your lawn into your garden. So sprinkling it on those edges, they'll be attracted to that before they are the plants. And doing it early, you can get good control. If you wait till later in the season, you won't have control. So don't wait to see the damage. Do it before. Iron phosphate, you can get it in a couple different brands, Slug Away, and a couple different names for it. Easy to use, completely organic, and safe for your dog as well. So.
Excellent.
I think it's well
Thank
said.
you.
The one caution, the majority of the products out there should not be used with edibles. Iron phosphate, and Tom mentioned a name brand, Sluggo's another one. Stay away from anything that contains metaldehyde, and that's the most common active ingredient, or mesurol. So anything that begins with an M, stay away from. Anything that begins with iron, for iron phosphate, you can use that with your edibles.
Thank you. Karen took down some questions earlier as well. Joe from Duluth wants to know, are those Asian ladybugs coming back strong this year?
He lives
They
in a
seem
home
to come
like,
back strong when they come back.
He must live in a home like I do, where you've got a little bit of ventilation going on. We had quite an infestation last year. They move in, they go semi-dormant, they live in the wall cavities. They will not reproduce. So at this particular point, you're just going to have to vacuum up a few of them that are in your home at this particular time. They nibble, of course. They're not particularly toxic in any way, but they're really an annoyance. And whether we're going to have a lot next year, it all depends really upon the type of season that we have, the kind of climatic conditions. But
all right.
There are worse things. They were introduced, incidentally, as an organic means of insect control. They control aphids if we look for the positive and everything.
I think I was responsible for that, Bob.
Is that right?
Now we know who to blame.
Nice thing is you don't have an aphid on your houseplants, but your whole house is filled with Asian lady beetles.
Yeah, right. Okay, more questions to come, but we have to go back to a story that we did earlier. Well, actually, we did it last summer. We went to a garden just outside of Duluth where one woman has taken her decades-old landscape and adapted it for her changing needs and family. Here's this week's garden tour.
It's got about 3-4 inch round PVC pipe that we spray painted green and brown and put them underneath there, and they're all put together kind of like in T's so that the chipmunks would have a place to run and hide from foxes and dogs and cats, but still come out to eat. And so they'll hang around out here and they'll go underneath and they'll come out and sit and eat and kind of hang out till it's time for them to go in for the winter.
What do you call them?
Alvin and Chipper.
Hi, my name is Mary Pulford, and this is my garden in Hermantown, and my granddaughter Nora and I would like to welcome you to our garden today. I've moved in here in 1991, so the trees were planted in 91 and 92, but the gardens are relatively new. They're just a few years old, and so we're looking forward to them really taking off and filling in and just being an absolute delight here in a few years. The land here is about a 20-foot drop from the top of the hill to the bottom. We might get some frost down here and not on the top. We've mulched a lot using both gravel and the cedar bark. Trying to use what grows here, and this is a solid zone 3. Barberries, hostas, the grasses, the sedums, the coneflowers, the ever-blooming lilies, all the spireas. Everything has to be easy care, easy maintenance, not a lot of work, and something that I enjoy looking at, and hopefully the deer won't much on. So those 3 things are probably the top of the category list. I got the idea from the WDSC garden tour, and we had visited a garden that used these hog panels, and the deer don't even think about jumping in. I didn't need a huge place. It's basically food for myself and the grandchildren, and when they're here, it fills all the way down to the bottom. What is that, about 3.5 feet, 3 feet or so? Okay. Yep. Can you remember what all these foods are in here? Ah, that's a chive, isn't it? But it holds the moisture, and the wood absorbs a lot of sunlight, so it helps heat the soil very quickly in the spring and the early summer. It's a teaching tool for the grandchildren. So they help plant, and we watch things grow, and we snack on things. These beds, the wood is starting to rot a little bit. They've been in 23 years and splinter a little bit, so I probably want to take those off and put new ones on, and then add a few more plants, but I think I'm going to be pretty well done until the next garden tour.
Then you'll get more ideas.
I will.
And Mary is a good friend of ours. She's been on our garden bus tours many times. And I just wanted to mention those livestock panels. We have seen them in really large gardens where people keep the deer out by using them.
Yeah, well, it's interesting now, almost the question we get on every show or in any setting where we're at is how do you control the deer?
That's right, and that is one good way.
Yeah.
All right, Karen is standing by. She's got a question from the audience. Karen Sunderman,
All right.
go ahead.
This is Patty from Cloquet, and go ahead with your question.
How warm does a greenhouse have to be at night? The coolest it can be for the little plants.
Can you guys hear that?
Nothing.
Okay.
You might have to repeat
Karen,
that.
we're not able to hear that from here.
How warm does a greenhouse have to be at night for the little plants to stay live?
How warm does a greenhouse have to be at night for the small plants to stay alive?
Well, certainly above freezing. And ideally, minimum of 40 degrees, preferably even a little higher than that, probably 50 to 55 at night, and about 70 or so during the day. If you can keep it at 70, is really ideal. So.
That's right, except maybe if you're starting seed, there you want a constant temperature about 70 degrees 24 hours a day for the areas where you're seeding.
Where you're just starting the seed?
Yeah.
Okay, we had go back to another question about pruning, and thank you very much for your question, by the way. This one's from Melissa in Carlton, and is wondering about the bridal wreath spirea. Does that one get pruned at a different time?
Well, bridal wreath is one of our earliest blooming spireas, and really one of the first spirea that was brought to the Duluth community back in actually the 1800s. So that blooms usually about the third week of May or in that area. So if you don't want to lose the blooms, if you've got a big old beautiful bridal wreath spirea, wait till it's done blooming, and then you can cut it to the ground. You'll get plenty of growth this year and set those buds for next spring for blooming. So.
All right.
That whole group actually will tolerate quite a bit of aggressive pruning, all of the spireas will.
Okay, Karen took this question earlier from Susan in Duluth, who wants to know about using pine cones in your compost pile.
You know, there's nothing wrong with pine cones in the compost pile. Now, they're not a good feedstock because they're going to be very slow to break down, but what they do is they provide some tilt and you get some air movement through there. So they're almost straight carbon, straight cellulose, not going to break down readily, but they will provide a more porous nature. So I think mixed into the pile, rather than being in a layer that compacts, mixed in the pile, they provide this tilt, so they're a good addition to the compost pile.
Okay. Looks like Karen has someone in the audience with a question. Karen?
All right, this is Laura from Duluth.
Hi, I have two shrubs I want to move, a tamarisk and a strawberry vanilla twist hydrangea. Can I do it now, or do I have to wait for fall? And on the tamarisk, can I prune it, or am I just letting myself out of the blooms this year if I do that?
Both of them, as soon as you can get in the soil, and I still have the one you gave me, Laura. So as soon as you can get in the soil, the next 3 to 4 weeks, it'd be a great time to move both of them. The tamarisk will respond very well to pruning, and you can take right down to the ground and you're going to still get 6 or 7 feet of growth on it. So depending on what you want to do with it, wait to see what happens as far as how far it lives on it and cut it down to new growth, or you can take it to the ground. So thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. Well, we want to go back a little bit to that earlier question about seedlings and greenhouses, and take a look at some of the things that people are doing prep work, and plantings to get ready for when things are ready to go in the ground. So let's look at what you brought there, Tom, and talk about how you got those growing.
Yeah, we've gotten a couple things started here. I'm like every other gardener, excited for the season to start and planting seeds before I should. So I've got basil, amaranth, and nasturtium, and you can really see we're really still in March, right? We're 7 weeks from getting in the garden at the most or at the earliest. So we really don't want these very big yet. So the basil is probably about perfect size right now, and you can even start using this for cooking. The amaranth is really nice size. Nasturtium's too big, isn't it? And this is probably going to end up in salads before it ends up in the garden, because it's probably going to be too big by the time we can safely plant it out. So really now is the ideal time to get a lot of our seeds going, especially the vegetable crops.
You know, Tom, I really like that amaranth. This, folks, is a nice colored leaf variety, but this is our pigweed, our red-wooded pigweed, and I've got acres of that if it was interested. But the pigweed's one of our notorious annual weeds. They are edible and can be used for that purpose. But
Right.
most of us are fighting them rather than trying to consume them.
And you've had seedlings in for a while, Bob?
Oh yeah, I would say that some of the real slow-growing seedlings, like your onions, if you're starting from seed, you really want to have those in, and certainly peppers. Everyone wants to grow tomatoes, our number one home crop. We're just a little early for that. Another 2-3 weeks out, I would say, before we want to seed tomatoes.
Are either of you going to tell us exactly when we can put them in the ground?
Well, we are moving our planting schedules up a little bit, but not real aggressively. So we always used to say, and statistically in this area, the last frost-free day was June 10th. We're looking at earlier June now, so we are expanding the season a bit. But as we can tell from the weather coming up here, we're still a cold climate, and I wouldn't get really too aggressive on that. But certainly looking at the end of May, first part of June, we do have a lot of season ahead of us yet.
Yeah, well, and you know, we as gardeners spend a lot of money on plant material or preparing places for plants, and really because we spend a lot of money and they're precious to us, I think it's important that we wait to ensure at least as much as possible that the weather is going to be ideal for them to grow without frost. So.
Okay.
And it's interesting, there are frost-sensitive plants that will actually be destroyed, but even like a potato, I know we've got potato growers here, if they emerge from the soil, you plant too early, we get a frost, say in mid-May or the third week in May, it knocks the growing tip off, the plant re-emerges, but it really cuts your yield by about 2/3. So you really want to wait. Anything that's frost sensitive, you want to make sure that stays in the ground till about the end of May, so you don't have that kind of potential damage.
Okay, well, we do have some more questions, but shy people, I guess, because they're coming in on cards. But I might make you raise your hand. Is Terry from Matamidi here? Oh, over there? Okay. Terry wants to know, how good is Milorganite for a deterrent, and how good is it as a fertilizer?
Interesting.
And I believe that's a animal deterrent, is that correct?
Yes. Of course, it's a product of the Milwaukee Sewage District, and there was apparently some evidence of deer control. However, let me tell you, anyone that can demonstrate effective control would have it on the label, and it's not in the label. That's all I'll say. For deer control, it is a fertilizer. There's a fertilizer component of it, but we also have our local product, and we want to support our sanitary district. We produce a lot of real clean sludge in the greater Duluth Superior area, and we got a nice product called Garden Green, produced locally.
Okay.
And of course, Garden Green is not sludge, just to make sure.
No, that's right, it's not.
Yes.
It is a locally produced compost.
Yes. Yeah.
And then from David in Bloomer, is David here? David's out at the home show. Okay, thanks, Karen. David wants to know, how do you get rid of cabbage worms?
There we have a good organic control. You want to be a little careful. The bacteria is BT, Bacillus thuringiensis. Look for Kerstaki, BT Kerstaki, because we have 3 bacillus that are being sold in the area, all for different controls. Cabbage worm, it has to be BT Kerstaki. One of the name brands is Dipel.
Okay, great. Well, we want to tell folks about some other gardening information that's going to be available here at the home show. And Tom, you've got a couple of seminars coming up.
Yes. Yes, I do.
Well, tell us about
Tell us about it. Okay, so
time and place.
Friday, if you're here back at the home show, I have a seminar. Jan Hibbs and I are doing a gardening through the season. So it's really starting now through the entire season, what you can see in the garden and enjoy and what you can be doing. And then Saturday afternoon, we also have a seminar that Jan and I are putting on, and it's about organic gardening. So it's completely use of organic methods to create and have success in both your vegetable garden and your flower garden.
So watch for those seminars. Also one about growing with children. So gardeners see so much beauty and wonder, and they really truly love to share it. So here now are some photos sent to us from gardeners across the region.
The anticipation builds as Heather White prepares to fill her raised bed hoop houses with an assortment of vegetables. Heather also likes to get plants started in the cold frame she built in her Duluth Heights yard. In Ironwood, Michigan, Lena Constantini has flower gardens that encircle the house and garage and border a 300-foot driveway. And while the climate of her Upper Peninsula landscape sustains plants for Zone 4 and 5, Lena says it took a lot of amendment to overcome the rock and clay soils. She was obviously rewarded for her effort with purple primula in spring, vibrant poppy flowers and lupin in summer, an array of stunning lilies, and so many more blooms that attract birds, bees, white-tailed deer, of course, and sometimes even a wild turkey. And these baby robins were hatched among the hops vines on the garden gate of Steve Reese of Cotton, who says they would pop up with mouths open wide at the sound of any slight noise. Mother robin must have fed them well. Steve was there to see them successfully fly from the nest. If you have garden pictures to share, please send them to greatgardening@wdse.org.
Also at Great Gardening, we take a special trip each spring and each summer to see some of the most beautiful landscapes in the Northland. We have both a spring and a summer garden bus tour. The first one is to Bayfield and Madeline Island in May, and then we have a tour of the Duluth Superior area gardens in July. Each of those tours is a wonderful opportunity to share time with like-minded plant enthusiasts, and we see some gorgeous, unique gardens, share a lovely lunch, and we have a lot of fun. So if you'd like to find out more about that, if you'd like to support Great Gardening and PBS North, go to our website for more information about the garden bus tours. Well, guess what? That's all the time we have left.
Still didn't get to all the questions.
We still have a couple questions, but I think we're out of time unless Judy, our floor director, tells me that I can ask one more question. Can I? No, we're out of time. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, thank you guys so much for being here at the home show and sharing all of your wealth of information and expertise. We really appreciate it. We want to thank our audience for being here, joining us here today. And keep watching Great Gardening. We appreciate your support. And a special thank you to our crew who have worked very hard to be here at the home show to get this program on the air. Thanks to all of you. And from all of us here, thanks for watching and enjoy the garden.